もう勝手に電力2.0で見上げたいと思います。今日1148回目というところで、この GETP の関連のところを少しまた話したいなと思っています。この Variable Renewable Power Deployment Acceleration ということで、実際にこのインベストメントフォーカスエリアっていうところのナンバー4で、この Variable Renewable Power Deployment Acceleration ですね。Outlook for variable renewable power deployment and investment in the JTP scenario, the share of variable renewable energy generation rises to 14% in 2030 and 25% in 2040 from below 1% today. The expansion is led by the rollout of cost-effective solar PV, whose capacity lies from less than 1 gigawatt to 29 gigawatt by 2030. Wind power complements the growth in solar PV, but is more limited due to resources availability and requires uptake of low-speed turbines in many locations, with over 8 gigawatts installed by 2030. The limited known potential of wind resources, in contrast with solar PV, acts on one of the reasons for rather small build-out of wind plants compared to other renewables. In the JTP scenario, variable renewable sources increasingly become the lowest cost source of new generation. ということで、実際にソーラー PV というところはかなりやっぱり入ってくるってことですね。インストールキャパシティというところで2050年までにもう250ギガを超えるぐらいの太陽光入ってきますし、実際にこの available annual investment ということで、実際に年間の投資っていうところも、実際にかなり10ビリオンを超えるようなところで、2024から2030ってところで、年間で入ってくるっていうような状況になっています。あと、ストレージっていうところもちょっと入ってきますね。variable renewable installed capacity and average annual investment in JTB scenario. These model outputs also consider PLN's priority project list and expand well beyond the list based on the least cost capacity expansion. This deployment is conditional upon the policy enhancements for renewables procurement and power purchase agreement without constraints imposed by local content requirements. Still, the modeled results in the JTB scenario are subject to deployment constraints, reflecting national stakeholder MEMR and PLN views over realistic annual build-out rates and considering the rate of variable renewable adoption observed in other countries. This ambitious development also strongly depends on integration measures and investment to expand the coverage and enhance grid and system flexibility to integrate variable renewables. In the JTP scenario, these measures include upgrade and investment in transmission and distribution, more flexible operation of thermal power plants, and deployment of dispatchable renewable capacity. The JTP scenario also sees notable deployment of storage technologies, which is one of the integral parts of incorporate a high share of variable sources in the system, such as pumped hydro and battery storage system, which are projected to reach a combined 4 gigawatt by 2030 and over 7 gigawatt by 2040. The JTP scenario puts heavy emphasis on solar PV as a forerunner and Indonesia's renewable development beyond 2030, realizing its enormous potential compared to other renewable solutions. Cumulative solar PV deployments surged to 100 gigawatt in 2040 and close to 265 gigawatt by 2050. Wind also accelerates beyond 2030 to nearby 30 gigawatt in 2040 and almost 45 gigawatt in 2050. Achieving this level of installed capacity required nearly 25 billion cumulative investment in solar PV and wind by 2030 and almost 80 billion by 2040. Key issues in acceleration of variable renewable power deployment. Acceleration of the deployment of variable renewable requires addressing several key issues, including the integration of variable resources, reducing the cost of solar PV and wind generation, and addressing potential constraints around land availability for power system operators. Integrating higher shares of variable renewable energy technology, such as wind and solar PV, into the system will require improvement in operational practices and investments to enhance system flexibility. At low generation shares, solar PV and wind have little to no noticeable impact on the power system. See sub-chapter 2 or over the overview the phase of system integration for variable renewables. However, as more solar and wind power is being integrated into the system by 2030, a greater impact on the system operation can become apparent. Infrastructure to accommodate greater flexibility, such as primary data collection for the better forecasting and economic merit-based dispatching needs to be prepared before 2030. The potential additional cost due to the ancillary service provided by PLN needs to be also considered due to higher penetration on solar PV and wind. Moving further forward in 2030 to 2040, increased flexible operation for rigid thermal-based plants and improved grid infrastructure such as transmission lines and substation are going to be integral in accommodating more VRE in the system. The later stage of the transmission will happen in 2040 to 2050, where grid operation will be highly influenced by storage and other ancillary services, demand-side response, and large-scale grid digitalization. These stages are often overlapping, requiring system operators to address challenges and employ flexibility options and policy priorities in parallel. Specifically, energy storage needs to accommodate a large share of variable renewables are already considered in the model with identified needs of 4.3 gigawatt storage in the system by 2030 and will also double in 2040. A few pumped hydro energy storage projects are already listed in PLN priority project list, namely Upper Siscam pumped storage, emphasizing the awareness of PNN is preparing the infrastructure needed to anticipate more solar and wind in the system. While the initial assessment of Indonesia's pump storage potential suggests around 7,308.8 gigawatt-hour of technical capacity, Institute for Essential Service Reform 2021 alternative technologies such as battery energy storage system BSS also need to be pursued with much higher intention by beyond 2030. In the JTP scenario, Indonesia will experience an ambitious jump in solar PV and wind generation share in the on-grid power sector, with 14% in 2030 compared to well below 1% today. Such a level would be on par or more than in the leading emerging and developing economy markets for renewables, including the People's Republic of China and India. Looking further forward in 2040, variable renewable accounts for 25% of annual generation in the JTP scenario, on par with current share in countries such as Australia and the United Kingdom. Taking into consideration the level of variable source penetration in various countries from 2050 to 2022, there are several countries that experience such a jump in variable renewable share from the very muscular level, such as Argentina and Vietnam. Despite challenges in such a jump, such transformation is technically feasible. Rigorous technical adjustment will be needed along the transformation, such as improvement in protection system and circular reconfiguration, advancement in grid interference technologies such as modern inverters, geographical adjustment incorporated in the engineer design to abate cloud or cover variability in the case solar PV, and enhancement of variable sources output forecasting in the grid operation source. It's a share of electricity generation and BRE penetration phase for selected countries ということで、実際に今の、リニューアブルの入っているところ、デンマーク、アイルランド、Germany、スペイン、ユナイテッドキングダム、オーストラリア、ブラジル、ターキー、トルコ、チャイナ、ベトナム。やっぱり東南アジアではベトナムがすごいと。フランス、アルゼンティーナ、ジャパン、メキシコ、インディア、サウスアフリカ、コリア、タイランド、インドネシアということで、インドネシアはまだまだってところですね。Utility scale solar PV and wind have made encouraging cost reduction in recent years. In Indonesia, these sources remain relatively cost compared with international benchmarks, but recent project tendering is helping to deliver more affordable solar PV and wind over time. With the latest PPA of the Bali 2 by 25 megawatt solar project signed in March 2022, solar PV PPA prices have decreased by 78% between 2015 and 2022. In 2020, the Hijanesia Equity Partner Solar Auction plan by Indonesia Power likewise attracted reward low bids of less than 0.004 US dollar per kilowatt hour, 84% less than PPA's price from 2015. 8 projects were the combined compared by of 585 megawatts and are now in the pipeline and have at least been tendered in some fashion. These projects come from Indonesia Power's Hijanesia Equity Partner Auction, the Chilata 145 megawatt FPV project, and Bangka 10 megawatt, and Bali 2 by 25 megawatt ground mountedソーラープロジェクト and others ということで PV キャパシティの、かなり大きなところの案件というのがどんどん増えているということですね。この黄色のところがまさに、で、ビットプライスっていうところが、実際にどんどん落ちていますよっていう、この0.055とかっていうところになっていると。で、Indonesia's solar PV and on-share wind LCOE compared to global values ということで、インドネシアの中でもソーラーのコストっていうのはかなり落ちてきているっていうところで、インドネシアっていうところもあると。The wind projects also show some significant stride as well, with the newly signed Tanah project PPA of 0.055 US dollar per kilowatt hour. As a result, PPA for wind power project has fallen by 50% in the last 6 to 7 years of development. However, a lot of developers point out that because of underbidding, these declines have not exactly created a healthy precedent for the market. For instance, given the incorporation of battery storage for the project, observers have assessed Tanah Laut's 70 megawatt wind plus storage project, which has signed a PPA of 0.055 US dollars as belong too low, implying that the consortium is accepting an healthy margin or way below market expectation for IR. In a market-driven auction for PPA, the price will eventually bounce back to more achievable level whenever the previous low prices are no longer bankable. However, it is worth noting that this trend would give an unrealistic expectation for future projects, typically from the buyer's perspective, while this low price level might not be reliable elsewhere. With the current estimation of onshore wind LCOE of 0.00836, the margin for improving PPA pricing in wind power needs to be evaluated to ensure fair project economics for the private project developers. This could be enhanced through improved tender system with strong assurance for both sellers and buyer interest, discussed in further detail in Chapter 8. In the JTP scenario, solar PV and wind see notable generation cost reductions over the project period. Solar PV and wind prices of 0.058 US dollars and 0.081 US dollars respectively, while still well above the global average, is still on par with countries such as the United States and Republic of Korea. This will be further reduced to 0.004 US dollars for solar PV and 0.0051 for wind in 2030, bringing it down to today's price level of more established renewable markets such as Australia and Vietnam. In comparison, ESR projected the LCOE for utility solar and wind project in 2050 to be 0.0259 US dollars and 0.05 US dollars for solar and wind respectively, based on the technology data catalog released by MMRDA, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources and Danish Energy Agency. Other countries experience provide lessons for driving down the cost of solar and wind. Brazil, India, and the United Arab Emirates have all successfully reduced project risks and transition costs through measures such as relaxed local content requirement (LCR), fiscal incentives, and financing levers. Such measures and their application to Indonesia are elaborated in policy chapter. Details on LCR and domestic manufacturing as an enabler of cost reduction will also be discussed. Chapter 5.8. Summary of successful solar PV case in select countries. Brazil, 7 gigawatt in 2020 from 84 megawatt 2016. Okay. With almost 265 gigawatts of solar needs in 2050, according to the JTP scenario, land scarcity would be one of the main issues of the massive build of the solar PV. This could potentially lead to increased land acquisition costs, increased land clearance activity, and other land-related issues. 日本に近いですね。While land acquisition risks can be mitigated with non-physical government support, it is worth exploring the possibility of using other area of usage such as rooftops and weather bodies. やっぱり水上とルーフトップということですね。One of the untapped potentials of Indonesia's solar resources is its distributed rooftop solar. The latest update by MEMR in June 2023 shows only around 100 megawatts of rooftop solar are installed throughout the archipelago, despite a total technical potential of 354 gigawatt. Institute for Essential Service report. JTP scenario projects that out of the 265 gigawatts of solar capacity needed by 2050, a potential of around 75 gigawatts could be achieved through distributed rooftop installation. This, however, would require reform of PLN's revenue model, and the current model does not favor rooftop solar installation. まさに屋根上に対しては PLN の今の制度って良くないんですね。which would simply cause a revenue loss for PLN. Recent findings show difficulties caused by the certain level of capacity limitation by PLN distribution unit on the rooftop solar permits, even though MEMR Regulation 26/2021 allows rooftop solar installation up to 100% of the connected electricity capacity. Enhancement of distribution level system infrastructure is also needed to accommodate such deployment. Summary of key risks and mitigation measures for accelerating variable renewable deployment. Impact of variable renewable plants to system operation and reliability. Improved grid infrastructure and system flexibility. Advanced control center, energy storage transmission and distribution lines as described. Slower cost reduction for solar PV and wind, minimizing the project risk through fiscal and non-fiscal incentive, improve tender and procurement processes, enhance domestic manufacturing, large land requirement for massive solar build-out, non-fiscal government support for land acquisition, exploring on other area usage such as floating solar PV and distributed rooftop solar PV. Another potential on overcoming the land scarcity issues on solar PV deployment is the emergence of floating solar PV, which is rising in importance as shown by recent project development. This technical potential can be further improved by the issuance of normal number 7/2023 Ministry of Public Works and Public Housing, which revised the water bodies usage up to 20% from previously only 5% as stated in previous Parliament number 6/2020. The immediate effect can be seen with the signing of Chirata PV expansion of MOU up to 500 megawatts between PLN Central Power and Masdar. However, looking on the nascent floating solar development in Indonesia, assistance on project development through TA is crucial to accelerating such projects. Overall, anticipating these issues and putting in place suitable mitigation measures such as improvement of the delayed retrofitting, adoption of new technology, and improving interconnections across the development and operation stage can help support the system reliability and flexibility. Within the next 60 years, PLN will need to accommodate additional capacity in the existing system and to include it in the long-term planning process. Accelerating of renewable would be enabled by measures addressing grid and coal power investment focus areas 1 and 2 of the JTP, as well as policy reforms pertaining to improve pertaining procurement processes, power purchase agreement, and local pricing, as described further in Chapter 8. Beyond the analysis of further in-depth studies have been identified to be potentially conducted to further sharpen the analysis made in this subchapter. The full list of potential studies is shown in the appendix. Selected showcase of renewable power project in accordance with the JTP scenario, a total of 37 gigawatt of variable renewable project would need to be rolled out in the on-grid system by 2030, which consists of 29 gigawatt of solar and 8 gigawatt of wind. Looking at status per the last PTL and planned project under the JTP scenario, there are around 30 gigawatt of variable renewable projects that need to be added on top of the existing REPTIL project list.ルプトですね、トッププライオリティオブソーラープロジェクトで、プライオリティの、あるリストってことですね。1、PLTS Degeneracy 2027 Commercial Operations Dates で、実際商用化って2027とか2025、26っていうところに出てくると。で、ここはタルサブ、スバール、Java マドゥラバリっていうと、Java マドゥラのところ、メインのところは結構やっぱ多いに置いて、あとはスマトラっていうところとタルサブっていうところになりますと。で、PLPB、TB by で、これ風力ですね。実際にも2026から2027で、Renewable Energy Value Chain Enhancement ということで出てきますということです。はい、以上です。